right, so here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to look back 20 years.
Okay. I was born.
We're going to look back 20 years, current day, and 20 years forward. We're going to take a real good dive into how business was done 20 years ago, which is applicable to the way I conduct a business. Today, how business is conducted by you and many of us, and then what the future might look like. How are you going to conduct business in 20 years from now?
Right.
So with that being said, let's try to just, you want to just jump right in this? And
We're jumped in. We're in.
we are in. Oh, I'm interested actually in your opinion of something before we really get going. Have you ever thought about how much time you really spend on your phone?
All the time. That's all I think about. My stubborn addiction to the phone. That I spend half my waking life on a phone. It's disgusting.
It is frustrating.
It's my life.
Right. And how do we know exactly the amount of time we spend on the phone? Have you ever looked at your
It's a lot.
your
It's
features that show how much? Yeah.
It's like 8 hours plus.
Yeah. That's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time. It's half my day. If I sleep for 8 hours, I'm up for 16. Half of 16 is 8. That means for every minute, I am on my phone for 30 seconds.
Wow.
Like right now, I'm itching to get on my phone.
Well, this is kind of cool because we don't have our phone. So for an hour, we don't
That's right
use our
there.
phone.
Just
Oh,
think,
it's
yeah,
on
but then I
the-
got
it's
to make
on
up
your
for it
leg.
when I'm off the.
All right.
Well, that's the thing. Like here's the analogy I always give is I definitely consider myself an addict to my phone. And not only the phone as the device itself, but what the phone does to me, that short-term gratification of notifications and whatever I'm kind of looking forward to, right? It's like pulling a slot machine down, right? Every time you refresh a page, you get something new and you win, essentially. So that is the real comparison and reasons why these social media platforms are designed like that. Every time you scroll, your win may not be money, but it is a new post to like or share or enjoy. So while it is an addiction that I've identified, I think the bright side of it is it's not an addiction where I crave it when it's gone. Hypothetically, if my phone were to crash right now or it's on airplane mode or it's in the other room, I'm not sitting here thinking, holy shit, I got to get back to my phone. It's actually like almost like a relief that I don't have to touch it. Whereas if I was addicted to a drug or liquor, I would seriously crave it and would not be able to live without it.
Well, this is an addiction. You said it now a couple times, maybe in different ways, but it is an addiction.
Correct. Yeah, 100%.
So like any addiction, how do you break it? How do you...
It's tough because it's almost like saying, how do you break your addiction to air? Like the phone for me is just a real part of my life. It's not like alcohol or a drug where I don't necessarily need it. For what I do in the life we live, especially, we do need it. So you take the example, like this device, while you're not addicted to everything about the device, you're addicted to, let's say, half the things on the device. How do you still use the device and then stare your addiction in the face and then just kind of be okay with it? It's a very hard thing to break.
So let's break this down. You have your phone. You said you're on 8 hours. Of the 8 hours, you're going to use it for business. You're going to use it for pleasure. And you're going to use it for personal, because pleasure and personal is different, right? In my mind, pleasure and personal, when I say personal, means I need information, right? Google something. Sure. You're going to verify. You're going to go on a vacation. You want to plan. So 8 hours, business, personal, and pleasure. What do you think that looks like?
Those are blurred lines. Again, I could always justify to myself and say, I'm working, I'm looking at content, I'm trying to find new ways to make content, and I want to pull inspiration. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I know when I'm just numbing my mind and I'm looking for, I have a very hard time being bored and alone with myself. So anytime I'm alone, I'm like, all right, I have to be stimulating myself in some way. And so I can make the excuse and say, oh, I'm bored, I need to stimulate, let me go work. But that's not work. It's just flooding your mind with some things that you could pull inspiration from, but it really isn't. That's not the reason why I went and looked for it.
Okay. Business. How many hours?
I can't even tell you because,
Yes, you
again,
can.
I really can't. I can't tell you how many hours a day I'm on this phone for business because I really could justify every second that I'm on Instagram, I'm learning something new about how the platform operates and works.
Okay. So because you're part of the social media platform and we are these influencers, I agree. There's a lot of times that I look at my phone and I feel like I'm learning. Yeah, I'm attracted and I see the flashy, shiny post and reel and short, whatever it is, whether it's something that I is attractive to me by way of it's a baseball clip or it's a highlight or it's a two people fighting in the street, whatever it is, that grabs my attention. So you look at it, but I'm also looking at, well, why did that grab my attention? So we can justify a little bit of it and say, well, it's research and development, or whatever. Truth is, if it's 8 hours and you're using 8 hours as an example, it's probably, I think in my mind, it's 6 hours of true business, because the business of social media that we're in, yeah, we use those platforms. We have to post. You've got to put it on there. So I'll make an excuse that we're a little different that way. But there's also, my full-time job of mortgage financing that I need to use for my emails. So I find myself, checking my emails, checking Twitter, checking Instagram, going back to my emails, and that's sort of the juggling act through the day. Not to mention using the phone to talk on and communicate. We didn't even discuss that, right? We didn't talk about picking up the phone and making phone calls, right? Because the day of working in an office and using a office line are basically gone. I don't know that if you talk to 10 people, what the percentages is probably the lower percentages that have a desk phone. Would you say? Right?
Yeah, I don't know anybody.
Right. Well, I know a few people, and I'm saying it's probably 20%. All right. So let's rewind and talk about 20 years ago. 20 years ago, before I had a cell phone, and I want to get this right. I think it was literally 2003. 2002, 2003. It was early 2000s. I had a cell phone. My first real cell phone was a flip phone. It was a Samsung flip phone. It came with the car at the time that I had leased, which was a BMW. It was part of the plan. And so it literally clipped in and was housed in the armrest, which was really cool. I mean, it was state-of-the-art thing. And it said BMW on the phone, and it clipped in there. And when I got out of the car, I pressed a button, I take it out, and then you put the antenna up, and you flip and you talk on it. So, but it was only used truly in the form of what I would say is an emergency, because I didn't talk on it. I had an office. I'd work on my office phone all day long. I'd get in the car, and maybe I'd make a few phone calls just to kind of feel cool, or I don't even really remember using it that much. But what I do remember is this. I would clip it. It would stay in that clip in the armrest, and I would go play golf all day, not bring it with me, not have it to look at, never be interrupted by anybody, including, mom, my friends, nothing. Play golf, get done, get showered, go in the car, and then maybe call and say I'm coming home. I don't even know how that's possible today.
Well, it's not.
Why?
Because it's just the expectation now. It's like saying 100 years ago there was no phone, so there was no expectation of even answering a phone. It's just the times.
Okay, so what's the difference in my example? Why can't you just leave, or why can't I just leave my phone in the car then? Let me just leave it in the car.
Because I'm not competing against other people that are doing that. I'm competing against people that are doing what I'm doing.
Meaning competing to...
If you're a salesman,
yeah,
you need to be on your phone constantly because you're competing against other people that are using that tool.
Okay, so that's the threat, right? That is the threat, and that's a real one for someone who is a commissioned salesperson or self-employed, or is a physician for that matter, right? Everyone feels this connectivity to their world, and to be available and to be the first person to respond. Okay, which is very important, by the way. And the world we're in today is demanding of that, and shame on all of us for buying into it. But we still have a decision we can make. We could still say, no, you know what? I'm at a funeral. I can't talk on the phone for the next hour. I'm in the dentist chair. We can't talk on the phone for the next hour. If you take that same mindset, and say, well, you know what? I'm going to pretend I'm at the dentist. I'm going to leave the phone in the car. I'm going to put the phone down, turn it off, let it sit on the charger for a couple hours, and you know what? That's a larger part, I think, of what needs to happen. to a lot of us. So I'm not excluding, I'm including myself in the same suggestion. But I want to, again, go back 20 years ago and explain to you that we were all accessible, not to the second, to the minute, to the beep. We had beepers, right? So I had a beeper, and a beeper would go off, and you look at it and like, okay, that's a call I got to make when I'm done. That's another call I got to make when I'm done, whatever. But because everyone in the world was working the same way, it was okay.
Well, that's
Right.
the thing.
Right.
And I think what it does now, it creates procrastination because you know you can do something instantly. If you knew, hypothetically, I have to send an email and it'll take the other person 2-3 days maybe to answer, whatever it may be, I'm going to send that email right now. Whereas if I know you're going to answer my text or my call, I can wait sort of till last minute to give you that chance. Like it depends on what I'm trying to do, but it does create this mindset of, oh, I got plenty of time because things happen instantly.
That's really a good point. And that's maybe why, this guy, 57 years old, is organized differently than you are.
Correct. And that's why you freak out when things happen last minute, where in reality, like, it's not the biggest deal in the world because it can happen last minute now.
But if it is going to happen last minute, I still feel like there's some thought and some preparation that should go to something so that you have a plan that is plan B, let's say. If something goes wrong in the footprint of what was a way that we always worked, and to your point, you prepare an email, and almost preparing the email, you really might have a day or two before someone responds. And you knew that in that time you could replay what their response is going to be and have the answer ready without going live.
Right. And now, even going live, you have instantaneous opportunity to edit. Hypothetically, if I messed up a caption for something, I could easily just edit the caption, and now there you go. My mistake that you were worried about is gone, and it's never to be seen again. So things that...
But if someone saw the mistake, it's still, and it's a mistake, that still puts a little panic into you, right? I mean, that's
Slightly.
still, right. Okay.
But slightly, as in, because the slight panic in your mind was a big panic because back in the day, you couldn't fix that mistake. You had to make sure that you did take the time to organize and write things out, because you get one shot at sending the email. You get one shot at a presentation or a pitch. And sometimes you do, right? Like, there's still opportunities where you may only have it once to pitch to somebody. But there are other things that you do have time to redo or go back and learn from, and all that stuff. So I think that's why we're wired a little bit differently, where I'm used to just on the fly doing something. If it's not right, I can change it. And you're more, let me prepare for that one thing.
Yeah, and so put aside which one's right or wrong. It's not even about right or wrong. It comes from different influence. And yet today, I deal with the same world of things that you deal with. And yeah, I can hit the delete, I can edit, I can do the same thing. Maybe I don't use those functions as much as you do because I have a method to the madness, right? A discipline that's very different from my upbringing. The role play and the things that I go through in my mind, and then sometimes even verbally speaking out loud. I'm not sure that everyone does that, but I know those are things that my work culture grew up in and around. We would role play with one another for that pitch. We would be sitting in a room with a camera sometimes in the days of real opportunities to leverage and see what it looked like. You would go back and forth and put a script out and identify the selling techniques with one another. Well, I don't know. Would you see yourself ever doing that today?
Yeah, definitely. And those are things that don't change. That has nothing to do with technology. I think that's just, everybody should be prepared to on the fly be able to do something. If I have to pitch for something, I should always practice. Just because I can edit doesn't mean I'm not going to try to prepare. But I really think the difference is when you're used to doing something nowadays, people your age sometimes will make the excuse or err on the side of, I'm older, so I do it this way. Well, you may be talking to people that are younger and don't want you to do it that way. Hypothetically, you drafted up an email, and that email is 3 paragraphs long as to why you think X, reasons as to why we should work together. People nowadays don't want to see that. They want to see a paragraph that says, this is why I'm reaching out to you. This is why I think you should be interested. Let's talk further. So conciseness, I think, is a lot more important now, whereas you guys might have appreciated the longer form email.
We but should probably both agree though. You'd have to know your audience.
That's my point.
Right.
I think the older
So-
demographic sometimes not blames their age, but holds strong to their age and doesn't want to budge to say I have to adapt because I am dealing with younger kids or younger adults.
Well, there are things again, even at your age, that you're going to progress through and be emphatic about that are disciplines that worked, and technology is helping maybe streamline it and allow you to respond quicker than we did. But all in the sense of this is once you establish what your work routine is, that is the foundation from which you're going to grow and you're going to build. The technology 20 years ago being very different than it is today, I think has hindered some of the communication skills and the skill set of a lot of people in any form of industry. So I just, and again, this isn't an old guy talking. I think that if you put a younger person and an older person, both relevant, both capable, able, neutral in size and education, all the same, except the different demographic is age. And you said, okay, here's your subject matter, here's your topic. Now present two ways, face-to-face and email, and then swap it. I wonder how that as an experiment would go through. So your audience would be the same, you swap. Your topic would be the same, the manner in which you do it. I wonder how much technology would be affecting either for the good or for the bad in that kind of experiment.
Just creates efficiency. Like if I want to get some, we both identify we want to get something done. I'm a salesman. I'm looking to sell you something that you have agreed to being you want that. You want to be sold on something. We got that out of the way. Right. We understand that. It may not take as much of a sale as 20 years ago took because everything's sort of out there. I think now we sort of understand, like, all right, let's cut to the chase type of thing. Whereas your generation needed that soft opening and relationship building to feel comfortable enough because maybe you didn't have the facts in your face to know what was really, you needed to hear that from the person.
So you think the technology is such that it's get to the bottom line?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay. I'm not disagreeing. I don't know that that's necessarily wrong, but that's seems again, like it's very transactional then, right? It's like, you're going to do business or not. Okay. I get it. But there's also part of that relationship that's a whole nother conversation. But to stick to the point of where technology is impacting and influencing all of us because we're so buried in it, I think it does water down your ability, your aptitude, not smarts or intelligence, but I just think it waters down and changes it and distracts such that sometimes, you miss a lot of the more important, valuable pieces in hearing maybe what a client may need. Okay. So, and just being that the case, the difference 20 years ago, people knew it was going to be a longer play. It was a longer race to the end of the finish line because technology didn't allow us to go click, shoot, go. I had to, write out a check, go to the mailbox. I had to put it in the mailbox, wait till it got there 3 days, and then my bill was paid, and then wait for the next statement to come to show it was paid.
Right.
If I owed somebody money, I'd have to meet them out, give them cash. Here's your money back. And we know today the difference is, I got to pay a bill, click.
Yeah, but I don't think technology removes the need for relationship building. If I want to work with somebody or a brand long term, I think everybody wants to meet in person and get to know the individuals that are behind the scenes. So I don't think technology ruins that. And I don't think technology disables my generation from being able to communicate. I think honestly it makes it easier to communicate.
Yeah, you guys, everyone communicates.
I think our generation is actually more in tune with understanding themselves and taking the time to self-improve and listen to other people, whereas your generation was a little more stuck in their ways, if that makes sense.
I don't know that we're stuck in our ways. We already went through the learning curve, and we understand what worked and what doesn't work, no matter where you are with technology's assistance. You know, the pure fact again is 20 years ago technology, today's technology, you know, they're very different. And I think, again, I'll just summarize by saying I think the technology waters down somewhat of an experience somewhere, although it's quick, it's easy, it's fun. You know, back to my bill pay. Okay, so I pay my bill, click, shoot, I go. I may never look at it again. I wonder how many of you younger people even look at your account to see, did that money I sent clear? What's my balance? Did the bank make a mistake?
Well,
was money returned? So there is no thoroughness. You guys, and again, I'm part of this too, because now I've gotten used to technology. Is, you know, you pay, you go, click, shoot, done. You don't cross-check it.
But the reason we don't have to is because there's way less mistakes now because of technology.
Oh, wait a second. There's as many mistakes today, maybe more. I'll give you an example, than years ago. On your phones right now, everyone's got subscriptions. You don't even know some of the subscriptions you have. $4.99 a month, $10 a month, the free 30-day Netflix,
But that's user error. That's not a mistake.
No. It's a mistake because you've trusted this device. And I'm not saying there's, okay, the specific example is you canceled it. Oh, I don't want it anymore. And you thought you went through the proper steps. And yet the mistake is it gets charged again. I know that's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to plenty of people.
Then you didn't properly cancel it.
No. There's examples I can give where I definitely have properly unsubscribed or canceled it. Part of the design is there's still a person on the other end that's reacting to your request that may not have put it in, or it went in, it didn't go in correctly, or there's just billing mistakes that occur. Billing mistakes occur all the time. And if you trust that your app and the means by which you move money around is 100% accurate, I think
nothing is 100% accurate, but
differently.
But the subscription, go reverse. It's a business model for the business, and it's way more effective for them. They're making way more money for people. Let's take out the billing error, and maybe somebody did mess up and they forgot to cancel your subscription. They normally are very good at mending that mistake and then giving your money back. But that creates way more opportunity for them as a business for you to forget about the $3.99 charge. So it's working for them.
Well, of course. Well, that's part of their business model.
Right.
That's why they do the teaser for 30 days.
So the technology in this sense is actually, it's benefiting them.
It's benefiting the vendor.
Correct.
Okay, my point is how you are as the end user, it's going to affect you negatively because the day of me getting my paper statement, me sitting down and looking at everything that I spent. Think about this. You go get a credit card charge today, you tap and you go. You don't even get the printout. You don't hold on to it. And if you do, you throw it away. Well, I used to, and many of us used to, hold on to the receipt. You needed the receipt to return an item. So you didn't throw it away. That's number one. You needed the receipt to cross-check your spending to make sure it was really you, because there were mistakes that were made. So I would sit down with my checkbook ledger. Like my father had this big checkbook ledger. It was like was a book this big. It folded open. It took over half the kitchen table. And I used to laugh, and he used to make me sit there and watch him and say, same things I'm saying here. You got to check, because, they're going to take your money if you don't pay attention. I'm like, yeah, really, Dad? They're going to take my money. And he would show me, despite me wanting to acknowledge that he was right when I was 18 years old, that, you see this? This wasn't my charge. And he'd have all his receipts. So as I became a homeowner, as I became a husband, and then a father and a homeowner, you take those receipts, you cross-check it against your spending. And yeah, as sure as there was a low percentage, but there was always something in there that wasn't right.
But here's the thing again. Technology is on our side in that sense too. There's plenty of apps that check your subscription payments and how much you're spending on subscriptions. There's apps that detect fraud. I get a notification. My credit card will cancel. If I flew to Florida right now and try to buy an Uber, I wouldn't be able to because my fraud detection would cancel my Uber. Whereas 20 years ago, if somebody stole your credit card and used it in another state, you may not even know until you check it the next month. I know instantly.
You ever get double charged for an Uber ride?
No,
Never?
never.
I have. I've seen unauthorized rides, double rides that I canceled that came through and charged. So I've seen them. Maybe I'm looking and you're not. Excuse me. I get so upset when I start talking about Uber rides. No.
I think you're just reading them wrong, to be honest with you.
I'm not
think you're
really
getting
not.
double charged
You
for
know why
Uber.
I'm not? Because I verify with Diana. I show her sometimes. I'm like, what are these rides? Because sometimes they're not at me; they're her and her friends.
I mean, but where are they coming from then? You think Uber's just saying, let me
The
give
point
this
is,
guy another
you
$40?
don't look.
I look
at
every
any
time
of
I get
them.
a transaction. I can look at my history
You
right
look
now.
at them and you cross check to make sure it was you.
I get a notification saying thank you for riding with so and so. I get a notification how much it costs.
My point is just the cross check of where technology today makes it real easy and counts on all of us just to with whatever, it's right. Or my checking account balance is right. And I don't need to look at the transactions. You should look at the transactions. There's things going on in there that sometimes aren't yours on your credit card charge. There's countless things in there that you may think are right, but if you dig deeper, you're like, wait a second, what is that?
Well,
And it's a double charge and mischarge. It's another company. And to the point of fraud, intentionally, sometimes hacks take and they charge $1. They want to see if it worked. Well, if you see that, either you view it on your app or you view it on your paper statement, that's a chance to minimize some of the damage.
Well, again, I mean, fraud exists regardless if you have technology or not. But what technology does is makes fraud easier, but it also makes detection easier. So you just have to make sure that if you're using the technology like an Uber,
right,
you are checking in. Or if you're using a credit card, you make sure that you get notified every time it's used or whatever it may be. Because if you get a random notification saying thank you for your purchase at so and so, and that wasn't you, well, that's an instantaneous opportunity for you to call your bank and say, hey, this was not me. So you just got a couple. It makes everything easier. It makes life way more efficient.
Okay, so technology is of great assistance. Technology is something that is very different 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Technology makes it really convenient and easy and manages your time best, right? Because you got other things you want to do. You don't want to spend a lot of time, looking and cross-checking things. I get that. Well, what does technology do in 20 years from now? What does that look like? How do we forecast? If it's easy today, how much easier does it get, or what changes?
I think the role of a salesman is going to be extremely diminished for most things. Most things don't need a salesman, but they did 20, 30 years ago.
Give me an example.
Most things can be facilitated through technology, as in a sale.
Give me an example.
Car salesman.
Okay. So you can buy a car now by click, shoot, and it gets delivered, right? You believe that model works today? Is that how you want to buy a car?
I think it's just trending in the right direction. I mean, you look at people that are buying Teslas, they're buying it right through the computer. They're not buying it through a salesman. They don't need it. Salesmen aren't needed right now. Like you have everything at your fingertips to understand what you want, what you don't want. It may make it feel a little more warm and comfy when you're talking to a human, which is understandable. So like maybe buying a house, for example, the mortgage loan officer, maybe that you need a human, not forever, but for the foreseeable future. But small purchases, again, cars and not saying a car is a small purchase, but things that I think there are going to be plenty of things that technology just takes over.
I hope the human element never leaves the transaction or the experience, because in an example of a Tesla and the car, click and shoot, well, you still want someone to explain to you how the stuff works, don't you?
You can call after the fact.
Oh, okay, you could, but is it a better experience to know somebody sat and took time with you and showed you this button's for this, that's for that?
Well, how about this? For the sake of efficiency, would it be better to spend the money and time as Tesla to hire people that after the fact are A1 employees and will make sure you know everything about that car after your purchase? or beforehand. Because if they're efficient enough to make sure that the conversion rates of sales is increased, then it would be a waste of time to hire out employees if I have only so many hours of the day. I'm spending half of them entertaining you that you're not going to buy, and then half entertaining him that he is going to buy. I might as well take my time to make sure that I keep everybody else happy that already purchased.
Well, a sales force is a good example. It's going to diminish. It's going to change. 20 years ago, there wasn't ATMs. There was bank tellers.
Right. You needed way
20
more
years
skilled
later,
bank tellers.
you have less bank tellers. You have more online banking. You have more, ease of use of payment and capture. I get all that. So in 20 years from now, there probably will be less of a sales force, conventional customer service people. Yeah. You pick up the phone today and you try to get someone on the phone, you don't get anybody on the phone. You get the automated response prompt system, right? So it's a scary thought what 20 years from now brings. But do you think that the technology changes such? Are we going to be carrying around phones? 20 years ago, there was I didn't have a phone like that. I didn't have a computer, a handheld computer, I should say. So what's 20 years? Is there a device in your hand?
Oh, I don't know enough about trajectory of technology to tell you that. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that'll say no, that'll be in your sunglasses or whatever it may be. But again, I don't know enough about what goes into these phones to even talk about it. But what I will say is there is a human element in sales that is very refreshing. And I hope, like you said, for example, some things always exist, like going into a restaurant. Like, I cannot stand when they hand me a QR code and I don't even talk to anybody. They slap down the QR code, I order from there, they bring me food, and that's it. My experience of going out to eat includes that. So you're missing a piece. If I wanted to talk to nobody, I'm cooking at home or I'm ordering takeout, which I never order takeout because the point of me spending the money is I want the entire experience.
And it's hard for you because you're always eating alone at home because you don't have anybody to eat with.
Correct.
But I understand.
I'm a lonely man. But even like shopping designer clothes. If you're going to spend the money, I feel like you kind of want, or whatever clothes, you want to go in there and talk to somebody and have them, do it with you. Oh, wow, that shirt looks great. Or you should buy these pants.
Yeah.
You can shop online if you're going to go into a store that doesn't do anything for you.
Yeah. So this is again, I say scary from my vantage point. For you, you could probably say some of it you might look forward to, right? So you've seen the cartoon, the Jetsons.
Yeah.
Right? Do you remember watching it? Were you really watching it as a young kid? Because
when I was 2 years old, no.
Okay, right. Well, I don't want to start reruns or whatever. So the Jetsons, it's unbelievably, I don't know how to even. It's unbelievably spot on in so many respects because of the things that. God bless you.
Thanks.
You okay? Yeah. The things that they did in that cartoon, from the escalators of moving throughout their home, the robots, the food that would be a complete meal and a pill, the flying cars, the telephone, the audio telephone where you could see. It's uncanny how much of what they had forecasted today is used. The only thing I off the top of my head that I remember watching that cartoon that didn't exist, that today still doesn't exist, is a flying car. Although I know there's flying cars, but there was the flying car highway. Like, they would literally get in their space car and go to work. That's the only thing that I could think of. We have robots. We have meals in a pill form, right?
Do we though? We don't have robots. We don't have pill form.
Well, we have robotic assistants.
Yeah, but it's not this. Like, again, I think projections are relatively easy to make. Like, you could say the projection, if we made a show right now and we were all using our sunglasses instead of phones, and then 20 years later, oh my God, look, they predicted it. They didn't predict it. They just followed the trends and projections of where technology is going. So I don't think it's like that impressive that the Jetsons are now flying in cars. And look, I think it's like ridiculous when people make those statements.
I think it's so cool that
it's almost like no shit. Like, that's where technology. We went from riding.
So say it. So here's your chance.
We will be okay. Here's this. Ready, guys? Listen up. We will be in some day using flying cars.
No way. No.
Just
stay
like
away from that. Go different. Give me a different subject. How is technology? I gave you. It's a phone. You're using a handheld device.
Yeah.
Do we still have the handheld device in 20 years?
20 years?
20 years.
I think people are still using phones, yeah.
Okay.
But
And
people
what's the
hold on.
alternative?
Wait, Dad, 20 years ago, 2000, people used phones. What are you talking about?
I'm asking you, what?
20 years ago, 2005, the iPhone was created. So
Well, I'm saying earlier, like I said to you, I started this with 2003, 2002 was my first example.
Still then, you had cell phones.
I know the cell phone was around, but it was a very different. The cell phone of 1999 was the big combat army, field phone, which had the battery pack and
very
the
different
strap.
than what we have
I mean,
today.
that's not what
These are
I'm
mini
talking about.
computers. These aren't phones.
That's right. These are computers. So do you, in 20 years, walk around with a device that is your phone, that is your information, that is your business, your pleasure, what do you think?
That's what it looked like. When was that? What year?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you,
2007
the flip phone was about 2003.
Right. You can't account for exponential rate. Like I don't know where, and I guess you could, but then it goes down to user tendency. Like, do people want no phones? Is that easy? If you said to me right now, do I want to use the iPhone or do I want to use a flip phone every day? I'm picking the iPhone. So this is a product of us and what our cravings and desires are. So if we crave and desire no phone, then that's what we're gonna get.
I think we're all gonna have like chips in our heads or something.
That's what Elon Musk says.
The internet says that there's going to be less hardware.
Well, that's inevitable. Exactly. It's just shrinking down. Everything is compressing.
Where's that voice coming from?
It's our
Who's
guys
this
behind the
guest?
scenes.
Behind the scenes, the
Yeah.
camera guys.
Welcome, Maroof and Dan.
Well, that's all
our
very
guys.
true. I mean, so okay, technology is gonna.
It's just it's like an
continually evolve.
inevitability of what happens every year. They compress and things get easier and smaller.
Right.
But then you go again a trend. You remember when the iPhones were getting smaller and smaller. Now we wanted it bigger and bigger. So like if we the big iPhone, things like 7 inches, that's huge. It's way bigger than average. So
What?
if you then go in the
that mean?
direction of wanting an even bigger phone, then we have bigger technology. But if we said to ourselves, I don't want that big, I don't know. That's a hard prediction to make. Is where we're gonna go.
All right. Well, I think this has been something that has been on my mind, and I'm glad we had a chance to really kind of kick it around because I wasn't sure if you viewed current day technology to be this incredible asset and have very little downside to it. So we know that the downside is just how it's all consuming.
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons to everything. That if you ask me would I want to live at any other time, I'd probably say everybody's like, oh, I want to live in the you pick insert time. I don't want to. I live in the best time ever. I live in a time where I can make money making dumb TikToks with my dad. Like, look at the life I'm living.
Oh, I thought you were going to say making TikToks with my dumb dad. That was good.
No.
That was a close one.
Never. I would never say. But like seriously, we have the opportunity to make money. You in 2023 can make money doing literally anything. You can do anything and make money, do a job, an actual career doing whatever you wanted to do. That did not exist 20 years ago. Didn't exist 10 years ago for most people. So the people that say, I'm living in the wrong generation, you're not taking advantage of what you have. But I will say there are distractions to everyday life. Like living in the present moment is sometimes very hard when you have your phone on your hand. So I think you have to acknowledge what we do have and make sure that you're sort of preparing and doing the things you need to do to still live a very, normal life.
Yeah, and let's have that as a takeaway.
Yeah.
Put your phone down.
Put the phone down.
Put the phone down. If it's 8 hours a day you're on right now, as you estimate, make it 6. Be conscious of it. Give yourself a timeout. Put it on the charger. You're not missing anything. The FOMO, there's nothing. Anything that was there is going to be there, right? It's all going to be there. You go to sleep at night for 8 hours, and you have your phone on the charger, hopefully away from you, and it's not next to you. If it's next to you, move it away from you. Because getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning and looking at it, to do what? To touch it, to move and look at an Instagram, or to, I don't know. Those are things that you should probably disengage from. Okay, healthy takeaway recommendation is, leverage it as a tool. Know it's a piece of weaponry in this, in the arsenal, in the game of work and pleasure in the life that we're living, but truly stay off of it because it's also put you down those places sometimes that just aren't necessary to be, right?
Yeah. Take it day by day.
All
Be-
right.
Get 1% better every day.
1%. Move the needle.
That's it.
I like that.
Because everybody like this cold turkey stuff is not practical. I think for the phone.
No, you need the phone, so we need it. We're not trying to get rid of it totally, but we don't need it as much as we think we depend on it.
Correct.
And I do like to remind myself often, like when I go to the beach, sometimes I'll leave it at the house on purpose because I'm like, I'm going to be on the beach. What do I need it for? To check Instagram? To check TikTok? No. I want to look at the seagulls. I want to look at, the water. I want to enjoy what's in front of me and be present.
Right.
And that's hard. You have to be conscious to be present. And it is never so obvious that when you are the person who's done looking at their phone, you put it down and everyone else is looking at their phones at a table when you're out to eat.
Well, you created that. I forget what that's a social phenomenon that as soon as I grab my phone, you now feel the need to grab your phone. It's like when I yawn, you feel like the need to yawn. It's the same thing.
Interesting.
So you might have created that. You didn't even know.
So we should, next time we go out, we're going out Friday. By the way. Yeah.
Are they coming?
Oh, I'm sorry, Maruf. No.
Yikes, sorry, guys.
Sorry, Dan. But we're going out Friday.
try
Let's
pitching
do
it.
that. Let's do that.
What are we
Let's
doing?
leave the phones in. Well, actually, we can't.
Yeah.
'Cause we have
How
to film
about this?
content.
We're going out to eat on Friday, and what do we have to do? We have to film content there. And not that I'm mad about it. Again, another great experience that we're blessed to be able to do this as a job. But that's reality. We're gonna go out to eat, and it's not gonna be the same experience because we have to film. I gotta make sure that I got the right angles and lighting, and it's obnoxious sometimes, but it is what it is. I will say, like, one last thing. Some of this is definitely work, right? Like that hypothetically would be work.
That's all work.
But at the same time, work will always be there, and it's super, super important to detach yourself from. Because if you want this to be long lasting, you cannot be on 24/7. You can't be obsessing over views and creating content and what to do next. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. So it's as important to detach as it is to be locked in when you are in.
All right. So good. Some
That's
good takeaways. I think that was helpful for me personally to bring further awareness to what I was thinking. And now my takeaway is I'm going to work a little better about being present.
Yep, same.
Leaving the phone, put on a charger, not looking at it. And it's a conscious effort. So we all need to help each other out with that because we'll be probably better partners, friends, have deeper relationships, and understand truly what the other person's looking for if we just put eyeballs to eyeball.
Right.
Look me in my eyes. Love you. All right, good. So that's it. Another good episode. Good job, Johnny.
All right,
Give it
guys,
to me.
cheers.
Give it to me, my man. And as is the case, health, wealth, happiness. Cheers to everybody.
Cheers.